feel like David Letterman saying my next guest needs no introduction, but I'm going to do it anyway because, what else am I doing here? I'm so excited for my first guest of this show. He is a rock legend. In fact, I think if there's a Mount Rushmore of Canadian rockers, personally, I'd go Gord and Geddy and Neil and Kim. He's a platinum recording artist, singer-songwriter, in fact, just inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame this year, 2020. You know him as an incredible solo artist, a fabulous radio host, and once the lead of Max Webster. I know him as the man who walked in on me in a shoe store when I was bent over and said, "Nice view." Please welcome my first guest, Kim Mitchell. How the hell are you?
Hi, Carla. Thanks for that intro and embarrassing me right off the top with that.
It's what I do best, embarrass men.
Just one of those moments that just got imprinted in the mind, and then,
I love that moment because, you look up and you see Kim Mitchell in a shoe store. It doesn't even feel real, It's like Kermit the Frog. What? There's an icon in front of me. And then you complimented me, and it made my whole year, I'm going to be honest. This is going back a few years, but so...
Well deserved.
So we haven't seen each other in a while.
No, years, in fact.
Years.
So it would have been back in radio days, right?
I believe it was 2009, and you interviewed me because I had a book out called Angels, Vampires, and Douchebags, and I bring this up because you read the book, and you were my favorite interview out of all the press junkets I did.
It's nice when you connect with an interview. You've done many of them, and as have I, and some of them are like, the stock questions, and others, they get into it a little bit, right?
Exactly. And, because you're so authentic and genuine and you put the time in. And that's what I was hoping we'd have here, because it's hard to even know where to start with you. So we're going to start with the big fantasize, because I know all of your fans are just, shaking like chihuahuas on meth, that after, it's been 13 years since we've had something new from you, right?
Yep. And the reaction has been way beyond what I would have even hoped for. I wasn't even really, making an album wasn't even on my radar until Greg Wells, record producer, who was in my band at 17. And yeah, he was a pushy little prick too.
Awesome.
He really was. I was married at the time, and I remember my wife at the time going, "God, this guy showed up at the door. Like, how does he even know where you live?" And he's like, "I want to play in Kim's band." So I gave him the time, and I gave him a disgusting hard audition, like really hard. I thought, that's the last I'll hear from him, at least for 2 weeks. And then he calls back the next day and he goes, "I'm ready." And he nailed it. So fast forward ahead, he goes to Los Angeles and he's recorded with all kinds of people and produced, had an amazing career. And he's visiting me before going back to Los Angeles. And we went for a nice walk and a talk in my neighborhood here. And he's talking about marriage and family, just stuff like that. We weren't even touching on music. And I gave him the USB key of shame as he was getting into his rental car to go back. And you do that. And it's a really awkward moment. No matter who you are, it's like, here's some songs I've been writing. And you're waiting for the reaction like, I don't have time. That's exactly what I thought.
Totally frightening, right?
Yeah.
Here's my baby. Why don't you judge it?
Exactly. At one point, I'm his boss. Now I'm looking up to him like, well, look at all this fantastic stuff, this music you've made, and hit records from Keith Urban to One Republic to, the soundtrack to The Greatest Showman, all kinds of stuff. So
even Taylor Swift, but we won't hold that against him. I'm kidding.
Yeah. And he had a song on Adele's 21 record. He did some work with Pink, Katy Perry, most of her stuff. He had a lot of pop stuff, but a lot of death metal. He's all over the road. He's an amazing player. Anyway, I give him the USB key of shame, and I'm like, okay, just, if you have time. And he got a hold of me a couple weeks later and said, your fans really need to hear this. This is something that you do really well that we need to explore. Please come to Los Angeles and record it. And I'm like, you're Greg Wells and you're asking me to do this. So talked with a few people and they're like, you're going to blow money on a record? And I'm like, well, yeah, man, you're blowing money on golf and memberships here and there. So that's going to be my golf game. So that's how we got started. And it was a lot of fun. And it was a lot of emotion went into this record, a lot of laughter, playfulness, and a lot of pain as well. So
I feel that all those notes were hit beautifully, and it comes out in almost every song.
wow.
I think I told you that for me, and I mean, I'm not an expert in anything music, but I certainly know what moves me. And speaking of poetic, I know Wishes, your first single, was based on the A.C. Child poem, but I found the entire album to be such a beautiful journey. It is a departure, I think, for Kim Mitchell from, people want to hear you scream and you're a rocker and you're a rock icon. But to me, it's leather and lace, baby. Like I think this is pure rock because I feel like this is the most bare your soul's been on any of your songs. Am I wrong there?
No, you're wow. I was just sitting there going, wow, you're really describing that record and the feeling of it. You're right. I have those two sides, that real shouty side where you walk in a room and you kick things around and you yell, I'm a wild party and go for soda and rock and roll duty. But there's a side that has a lot of people have also liked. Big songs, All We Are, Easy to Tame, On the Road, Max Webster. So this is a little more atmospheric. I like to say, yeah, we've got the candles burning with this one, a bit of dry ice going, and the lights are turned down a little low. But it's not mellow. It's got some passion and some drive. The Best I Never Had and stuff like that. So I always made sure that things were moving in a good way, not just sort of sitting there lilting away doing nothing. So
and I have to say that for me at least, I thought it was a bit of a hybrid of some country, and it was a Too Up to Be Down, which is so my jam, and it's such an optimistic, feel-good, necessary song for these times. There was a bit of pop. Like, I thought it was really an interesting cocktail on this album, and your range, dude. Because I've heard you on interviews say that you don't see yourself as a vocalist, because you've got a lot of LinkedIn. Like when I look at your LinkedIn skill set, what do you call yourself? Are you a lead singer? Are you a guitarist? Are you a songwriter? Are you a radio host? What do you go with? What do you lead with, Kim?
A band member.
A band member.
And you brought up country. I was in a band. I was born in Sarnia, Ontario, which is a little town about 40 minutes outside of Detroit on the Canadian side. And for a couple of years there, I played in a band called Dick Dixon and the Stone Mountain Band. So have a little bit of country stuff. The bass player was a cop too, which was a little unusual.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's almost like the Country Village people.
Yeah, it's like Cop by day, at night he's kind of an okay bass player. So it was kind of neat, decent guy. Yeah. So that sort of influenced me. And yeah, grew up on Motown too because I was so close to Detroit, and I don't think that comes through in my music anywhere other than
your soul.
I'm not
it
sure.
Comes through with the soulfulness.
Yeah. That stuff really did have, even as a young kid, you have Detroit rock and roll, and then you had Motown. And as a young lad, if you were to come into my house as a young boy, it'd be a little record player in the corner of the dining room on the floor, and I'd be on the floor and I'd be listening to Motown records. I wouldn't be listening, I listened to Elvis a little bit, but most of it gravitated towards Motown when that sort of started to hit.
So what I was saying is your range, like on Montgomery, which is one of the wonderful songs on The Big Fantasize, is so low. It's Darth Vader low. It's Barry White. It's Phone Sex low. And then Time to Stay, is super high. And you're getting up in the Maroon 5 Sting range. And I was, you have such a distinct voice. And I mean that with what voice entails for everything, like your signature writing, the tempo, and also just just your vocals. So I was really blown away by this album. You mentioned,
Thank you.
Kim, you mentioned your song "On the Road," which I think is one of your favorites, if I'm not mistaken.
I love the song "On the Road," yeah. And you've brought up Montgomery a couple times, as have some of my close friends. I like that one too. My inner hippie dippiness is happening, and you're talking about singing low. It was in a key. I was looking for the key, and I had some, mid-range, higher versions of it, and it wasn't until I found that key, and I was like, that's the vibe of the tune. It's literally you're pressed right against someone's ear and you're going, where the stones blowing off the salt, Montgomery, Alabama, that kind of thing. That's how I wanted it. Somehow I managed to squeeze notes out of it down that low. But yes, "On the Road."
Yeah, well, no, but I mean, in the car, I was like, listening to Montgomery thinking, Johnny Cash. Well, I bring up "On the Road" because when I was listening to your latest album, which, by the way, is the first off the Elmo Combo label, where I'm talking to you from, which, I want to make sure. Because, Michael Weckerly is always, he's my spirit guide. He's my spirit animal, so I know he's
Awesome dude.
he's somewhere. He's
Awesome
the best.
Dude. Heart
He's
of
the
gold,
best.
Heart of gold.
He does, heart like a
and,
whale. And
yeah.
so it's pretty cool that you're the first artist on the Elmo record label too.
Yeah. It's nice. You can go it alone these days, and people were, why don't you just, you finance this yourself? You did this, yeah. But I always love to pass a baton and just make the tunes. There, my job's done.
Exactly.
Over here. Doesn't mean I'm not hands-on. It just means I need some sleep now.
Exactly. You need a team, right? You need the whole tribe around.
Yeah. It takes a village, right?
It does. It really does. And let everybody do their thing, right? Let the bakers bake. You do, and you can concentrate on the artistry. And so I guess the reason I keep this will be you. If you're listening to this, you can play the "On the Road" drinking game. Every time I bring up "On the Road," have a swig. I bring it up because one of my favorite lyrics ever is because obviously as a comedian, I'm on the road too. And I'm sure I'm paraphrasing this, but you say something like, "On the road, you confront yourself, you confront your storm."
Yep.
So I want.
That's right. Confirms something about yourself. It confirms something about your storm. Some say it's freedom. Some say freedom is when you get back home. It's a weird, surreal existence out there. You know this. You lose track of all kinds of stuff. You're in this little bubble of performance, and there's a world of other, there's all kinds of news happening and things continue to happen in the world, but you're kind of unaware of it all the time. Now you would probably be very in tune with all that stuff because you're a comedian and you have to, in your bits, probably get on stage and talk about something that happened that day in the news. We're the shelf people, the shelf people on a bus. I mean, that's what we'd call ourselves. We're on a bus. You're up on a shelf. You're in a bunk and you're traveling and you're. It's just a crazy existence, and I loved that lyric that Pi Dubois, my co-writer, came up with, because it doesn't say 30 days on all that stuff, and not the cliches. It was very beautifully said, but yet I could relate to it. Some say it's freedom. Some say it's when you get back home, and sometimes I'll be late, sometimes I'll be early, sometimes I'll be late early, but surely once in a while I'd like to be alone too. There's just beautiful things that I could relate to in that tune. Well, and seems to be a fan favorite throughout my 40-year career. Have I been around that long? Maybe longer.
Well, you were a child star. At least that's what I tell everyone about me. Well, because I want to know, because you and I know the other side of you because we've had some more in-depth talks. But I guess I really want to know what, if you had to, because I know you've had a hard episode a couple of years ago. And I know that you speak about that. What would you say is Kim Mitchell's storm? What do you think your storm is? And I'm sure it's always ever changing, but it felt like I was really. It's such an intimate album. I'd like to know what you think your storm is currently.
When you ask me about a storm, Carla, are you talking about my purpose or the chaos around everything?
I'm sort of talking about the chaos or your challenge, or what demons are you wrestling now? Because it seems to, there was some pain and beautiful emotion poured into these songs. So
Yeah.
that's how I always interpreted. You could, confirm your storm, because I've got different storms happening at different times, and sometimes several at the same time. For example, the death of my mother. So that to me is a storm that I'm still trying to cope with and work through. So I was wondering, because you've lived a life, sir. You've lived a life.
I have, and there have been storms. There's been the perfect storm where your career hits the dirt, your marriage ends, and your mother dies, and you're dealing with that, and you move to another town. And along the way, I guess my storm now is first of all, I guess as a musician, all these life experiences, that's where you want to put it. I want to put it in my music. Whether it's just a guitar playing, whatever, there's an emotion, there's a musical energy you want to transmit. That's what it is, musical energy. And whatever chaos is going on, whatever things I've experienced, I'm not sure how that ends up coming through the music, but that's the intention, I'm going to sing this track about Old Marriage Waltz. It's about a marriage that's just in shambles. And you've been there, I've been there. This is going to be, in some ways, it's going to be an easy sing because I can feel it. In other ways, it's hard to sing that listening back to that lyric. As a matter of fact, I struggle with that tune on the album Old Marriage Waltz, finding the vocal. And it wasn't until late one night I was just listening back down here, right here, and I had a bourbon, and I was just listening back to stuff, and then I sort of finished it, and I had a little bit of a buzz, and I poured one more because it was late, and I went, I'm going to give Old Marriage Waltz a shot. And that's literally the take that is on the record. I was kind of buzzed, but I was pouring, I just had all this raw emotion came in. And even after the first line, I go, alone but together. Kind of like, there's this sort of
cathartic
emotional moment. And I thought, I Pro Tools, I'm going to take that out. And I took it out. I was like, for a second, I went, no, it's like, it's got that alone but together. Because it's, yeah. I don't know if I'm answering about my storm. What is my recent storm? I guess it's as age starts to happen, it's inevitable that pain-free days are over, right? Physical pain. There's, emotionally, I'm pretty good, but yeah, it's just trying to stay positive, especially through what we're going through. And my dog grounds me. He's here, so I think I would have. I'm not going to say things would be way worse, but he's brought me around, and so is that.
Yeah, well, I mean,
you're hitting on a dude who you're trying to get some deep feelings out of.
Well,
and I'm like, okay, what do I do here?
No, it's beautiful. No, I'm not trying to.
No,
because I think your deep feelings came out in the big fantasize. So I was just exploring there. And again, who are you talking to? I have a 10-pound chihuahua, literally keeping my life together, and is on my lap. So I understand that kind of grounding. And I think it's wild that, at least from what I've read, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, because you've been working on these songs for a while. You recorded them, and you said Culver City with Greg. Greg Welch. Okay, just a brief detour. You stayed at my favorite hotel, the Culver City Hotel.
The Culver City Hotel. I have a postcard upstairs of it that's out all the time. Well, it's just a vibey place. You've spent time in Los Angeles, and I find it to be, when you have something to do there, the most creative place that I've ever been to. And people will, back home here, some friends will be like, oh yeah, that the waiter and everybody thinks they're an actor or an actress. And it's like, well, they are. I can't tell you the number of times the guy who served me breakfast later on that day or the next morning before he went into work, he's sitting on a bench going over some lines. So that really goes on. Recording studios down there, some of the greatest music has come out of that city, and those studios, just from a technical standpoint, are ridiculous and amazing and accurate. I always found this might sound a bit nerdy, but my early career in Canada, when we would record in Toronto, it was like take it out of the studio, go expect to hear a certain thing in it, and it never was. I was like, well, where's the high end gone, or how come there's so much bass? How come it just wasn't very accurate? Down in Los Angeles, like, oh, I mean, here I go. I hope it's okay. Taking it out of the studio, it's like, wow, it's everything I thought it would be and more. So, and Craig's studio was hooked up. He has over 25-year career. He's
No
really
doubt.
honed down he's really figured it out. So, and won a Grammy for it. So,
Yeah, the
the
places, I
Culver
mean,
City
LA is
Hotel was,
haunted. It's haunted with the talents of the past. In that it
yeah,
does, like through osmosis, I think gets into
it,
your art.
it is, it really does. And just the weather and the vibe, and that hotel was so cool to stay in, and the history of it, where the Munchkins stayed to film The Wizard of Oz, and there's
Yep.
tunnels underneath it. They used to smuggle booze and women into, and back in the day. So it just it was just a great thing. And the studio was like a 5-minute walk away.
It's
Greg's
famous
studio.
because everybody will tell you when you go there, it's a great place to hang around the holidays, Christmas, but apparently the Munchkins were always having orgies there. And for that reason alone, I go and try and have a drink there, because that's a visual I like. Just loofahs, just fantastic. Munchkins having orgies.
Yep.
And that'll ruin everyone's childhood with just my first podcast. Can't get enough of that.
Why? Because it's true?
Exactly. So as I was saying before, and pardon my crazy ADD, but so you're writing all these songs over a period of time, and then this pandemic hits, and your videos for these songs, and the songs are released, and they're just a perfect marriage for our times. I mean, they really, between Wishes and Too Up to Be Down, it's extraordinary that, when a masterpiece and when an artist's work meets the right time.
Wasn't planned like that, Carla. The real at the whole root of this pandemic thing, I think I look at it on a real basic lens, which is we all need music. I need music. It helps me through the day. I listen to everything from house stuff at home to jazz to whatever, but we need music and that energy that it transmits. And with my song Wishes, I just thought it was kind of timely because it was the beginning of the pandemic, and we all had to sort of drop our shoulders for a second. I thought it was kind of a cool lyric that we can all wish for beauty and all that stuff, riches, but here's some simpler stuff that we're going to have to be satisfied with, and it's okay to wish for this stuff.
Well,
the green countryside and all that jazz, and then Too Up to Be Down. The raps kind of went around like, wow, things are really bad. It's really hard for people right now. You want to be releasing something that you're saying, I'm too up to be down. It's like, well, music is about fantasy. My job is to take you to Rockland Wonderland, to take you out of your reality. That's my job on stage. 2 hours of let's get out of our heads and just rock out and do this. And it's the same thing with a record. For 3 minutes on Too Up to Be Down, let's just come on down to my summer town. We won't make you frown because we're too up to be down. Let's celebrate like God don't know our names.
And which I love. And I mean, listen, this will be the most random thing anyone says to you probably in an interview, but I've always wanted to tell you this because, way back in your Max Webster days when, Paradise Skies, and I like the optimism in your songs. I like the positive, because again, it's part of the real. You're going to have dark and light. But
yes, you are.
Because I do want to ask you this because I'm asking everybody about their chuckle and chill, but Bernie Mac was one of my favorite comedians, and he has a very famous set. And when he would hit a punchline, he'd have a DJ, which was just great, which he'd sort of dance. It was almost like his rim shot, right? He'd be like, you don't frighten me, and then he would say, hit it. and so we're a bunch of comedians sitting around, and we all were saying what our ideal riff would be. And some of the lackluster imagination were like, well, maybe the Seinfeld, and when it came to be my turn, I said, I want the riff in Paradise Skies after every punchline. So I would say something like, oh, the other day I masturbated while driving. Of course, I drive a school bus. So, I mean, we can try, right? Okay, I'll give you
this one.
All right.
Right?
Okay, so keep it there.
That's the one, right?
Keep it there. I'll try one more joke, and that'll be the rip shot. Okay,
I would have thought you'd tell a joke and then be, I am a wild party. There.
Well, it was had to be just instrumental. Look, you got to keep your guitar. Let me try one more joke. Okay, keep the guitar and see if it works. And and this is my Bernie Mac moment.
Okay.
I'm the world's only stand-up psychic. Knock knock. I know who's there. It's my riff, man. That's my rim shot. Thank you. That's awesome.
Thanks.
So what makes you laugh?
Well.
Or who makes you laugh? Or when you just want to have a good
thoughts
belly
in
laugh?
my head make me laugh. Human beings make me laugh. My dog makes me laugh. My friends, I have a couple friends. You always have that friend that as soon as you call or you're on Skype or on FaceTime, they're constantly making you laugh. I'm glad. I think it's really important we have those people. So I have two male friends that just every time we're on the phone together, one's a little older, so he doesn't, technology is like, wow, Facebook, wow, what are you talking? And he wrote a lot of the lyrics on this record. And the other one just makes me howl, like right from the get-go. That's the stuff that makes me laugh. When people mess up and don't hurt themselves, but they mess up, that makes me laugh too. Somebody trips or they're going like this and they bang into a telephone pole. That sort of stuff makes me laugh.
I'm a Three Stooges fan, so I understand. I do. I love the physical comedy.
Yeah. And some comedians have made me laugh too. Lots of them. Went to see Jim Jeffries and, crazy, controversial, but,
But funny.
I can't help it.
Well, I know, and
funny.
It's a very difficult road right now, and you know this as an artist, Kim, because we need laughter more than ever, but we also have the cancel culture going on, and so we're walking on eggshells at all times when we need to at least let the comedians say anything. That's not.
Sure. You've really touched on something that's important with culture and having to walk a little. That's been maybe the poison of the internet or something. I'm not sure what it is, but just as an example, my religious political beliefs, things that I may say, I say in front of my friends. I don't say in interviews. I won't talk about politics. And so when you start to brush on certain things, I walk with caution because we have to.
Right. I don't want to anymore. I feel like it's going to that pendulum's going to swing the other way because, I always say, look, I'm not running for office and I'm not a pundit. I'm not teaching your children. Yeah. The comedians need to be the philosophers. Well, a combination of philosopher and rodeo clown. Keeping your eye off the bullshit.
Sure.
So I think that, and then I think when I say comedians, I also mean artists and musicians.
Yeah, well, fantasy, the big fantasize. I mean, fantasy itself is admitting that your mind. I was in therapy and I was talking to my therapist about this, and I said, as the story goes, I said, because I was suffering from some depression at the time, and we were working through it, and I said, I have this thought, my kids are little. I said, sometimes they drive you nuts, and I had this thought one day that picking up a 2x4 and like smashing him right in the head, you know? And 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 I said, it really bothers me. And he started laughing. He goes, that's fantasy. He goes, our minds as human beings go all kinds of crazy ass places. And that's okay. Making sure you don't act on those is what it's all about. So
Exactly.
with comedians like yourself, you're walking a really heavy duty line of, I know people think this, I know people have said this, but to say it, I think comedians get a little more of a free pass on it because that's your career. Would I be right in assuming that?
Well, there was a time, yes. Now pretty much anything is just absolutely trolled, and it's just becoming more and more difficult. So you kind of have to make up your own mind to not be forever apologizing. And my humor is pretty much uplifting, and I don't believe in a mean humor. But if I'm going to do something that's a bit edgy, just let me do it. Because you're right. You want to go extreme, as you said. Like, why did you call your album "The Big Fantasize"?
Because I just like the sound of it, The Big Fantasize, and it's a line in one of the tunes. And I'm trying to remember which tune it is. That thing. I'm not sure which tune, but it is. The Big Fantasize. It's in there. I'm going to have to go through the record some other time.
No problem. So, but that's the line that spoke.
But there's also the other side of what we're talking about was that there's a lot to always learn too, and to grow and evolve. And I love watching in my business it all change, and how a new generation comes in and says things differently and marches to a different groove in music. People are like, hey, what do you think of this kind of music? What do you think? It's like, it's beautiful. I may not buy it, but I love watching the whole world changing all the time. It's inevitable. Some of the people in my neighborhood, they want to hold on to the days of yore. And it's like, you can't. It's like there's developing going to go on, and keep an eye on it. But we always have to be moving forward and hand over what we do to the next generation, and accept that and support it.
See, that's so enlightened and elevated. How did you get that way? Because you can't. We're always changing. It's inevitable and always evolving. And I love that people all the comedians are making fun on stage of millennials and Generation Z, and I'm like, I'm a millennial whisperer. I think it's the greatest generation ever. I mean, you're a little nutty when it comes to the sex because you've had access to free porn your whole lives, but other than that, terrific generation. But what would you credit? Or what do you credit for, this would be the instead of the chuckle, this would be your chill. Why do you think you're so enlightened that way? Has it been through just life experience, meditation, the therapy, the heart attack, all of it? The whole bag?
Yeah, all of it. Just live it, keeping my eyes open, keeping my ears open, closing my mouth, and feeling, allowing myself to feel everything, all the emotions, and observing. I had a lyricist once say, it was Pi, the guy who wrote On the Road, and once I remember saying to him, I said, where do you come up with some of this stuff? Because some of it's pretty wacky. He goes, I just listen to what people say. They're saying it. So I think I don't consider myself to be any more enlightened than any other person my age, but maybe because I'm a guitar player and I dig deep down into those feeling vibes because I have to. I can't live life on the surface. I can't just walk on stage and I'm playing, I'm all partying. There I'm doing that. Okay, bye. It has to be transmitting that energy.
It does. It does. Look at your dude with all the feels happening. It's fantastic.
What are you doing to me?
I know. It's not deep as a lunch tray. It's Kim, Mofo, and Mitchell, y'all. So I know I've had you for a bit, so I guess I should let you go. And I'm trying to think of some magnificent closer, but I think I want to put it out because you have so many fans, and I know so many people would listen to you, and you'd have a huge impact. So I'm going to go here, and you and I have talked about, I know this is something that's just in your past, but having trouble with anxiety, and as you can imagine now, we've got a whole world, Kim, that I think are still in shock about what's going on, even though it's like now it's second lockdown. It's not a one-off. It seems to be staying, and there's been a lot of trauma, and so. As I said, I've been trying to be the court jester and keeping everybody laughing. But is there any kind of advice that you could impart, like maybe what calms you down, like meditation? Okay, so this is going to be help the world heal, Kim. Not too big a thing.
Well, what you say is all of it's really true. It's been disgusting, and there's no manual. We can look at that side of it. You acknowledge that. You have your moments of adapting, and then you have your moments of saying to yourself, step away from the ledge, Kim. Step away from the ledge. Here's my advice. We've been handed lemons, so let's make lemon pie.
Do you have the recipe?
One that works for me.
Well,
shitty crust though.
I think if I may say so, I know that after listening to your album, I did a meditation last night, knowing I'd be talking to you to Red Horizon.
So, do you meditation? That's amazing stuff too. Although when as a youngster, somebody gifted me transcendental meditation, and it was all going really well until the guy was going to give me my mantra, and then we're sitting in this place with incense burning and a picture of some dude, and he starts he starts singing this weird thing, and he looks over at me, and and I started laughing. I thought it's kind of cheesy, but then well, what are you doing? Just tell me the word, man. You don't need to pretend that or whatever you're doing, where it's coming from. And so that was laughing to me. I guess I was being cynical, like this guy back here, Frank Zappa, and in a Frank Zappa kind of way, like, this is a load of shit, man. But then he said the word, and he's like looking at me like, he's saying the word, he's repeating it. And so I'm like, okay, you want me to say it? And I started saying it. And I fell in love with the word, and it stayed with me my whole life. And it really does. If things get crazy, I can quiet my mind with that word. It's a lovely thing, meditation. So, and I know you do it. So, sometimes we get to that point, right?
We do.
And then when you get to that transcendental thing where your mind gets quieter and quieter and quieter, and then you have that moment where for a split second your brain is stopped or cleared, and you have that floating sensation that just scares the Jesus out of me.
But you and I like
I get
things
up
that
and I
scare
run away
us.
and I go, I'm never doing this again. I don't like floating around. I just want to play guitar and have a jack once in a while.
Meanwhile, I'm doing everything right. I'm trying
room.
right now to float.
Yeah,
I got to be honest.
right.
I can't wait for that floaty thing. But I guess,
scares me.
The reason I even started the whole writing my own guided meditations, Kim, is because I hated the ones that were online. And there was this one chick who I was sure was speaking in a faux accent. And I was getting close to the floating stage. I was deep in it. And I swear to God, she said, and now breathe in through your vagina. And I couldn't stop laughing. And I thought, what? Can we do that? And I remember thinking, do I have to get an N95 mask for that bitch now?
Yeah.
What? So,
things you didn't know you could do.
No, exactly. So I think we go from laughing and making fun and being, skeptical to, oh crap, this might be working. So
it does. It does work. It does work. And the other thing that grounds me is that sometimes you're walking around thinking you got a good album, you've had a great career, you're Kim Mitchell, whatever, things of life has gone good, and then your dog goes, pick that up. I don't care who you are. So, which is what he's going to do right now. I have to go walk him.
I like it. It's the mic drop. You know, if I can close out a dog story, I will. I will, brother.
Okay.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much. You know, I adore you.
Thank you. Oh, thanks, Carla. Same thing. Mutual Admiration Society. I've watched your career and totally dig what you've done. Congratulations on all that.
Thanks, man. So I'm glad. As soon as I heard I would be doing Carla Collins Rocks the Elmo, Rocks ROX, because we're cool. I wanted you to be our first guest. You're the first artist on the Elmo record label, and you're a rock god. So thank you, my friend, and I hope we'll talk again.
Thank you. I hope I didn't say anything or whatever. Never mind.
You're beautiful, darling.
Good seeing you.
Perfect. Good to see you too. Thanks, Kim Mitchell.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
All right, I'm so excited for this portion. I'm shaking like a chihuahua on meth after a couple of 5-hour energy drinks because it's a new year. And obviously, it's great to kick off the new year with Kim Mitchell. I mean, we're not animals. But for many years, when I worked on radio and TV, I would invite an intuitive or a psychic to come on and maybe give us a little idea what was going to happen in the coming year. And I can't think of a time more than now, forever 2021, that's my catchphrase for this year, that we need an intuitive's vision, predictions, guidance more than this year. So you're in for a treat. I have a dear, beautiful, wonderful, handsome angel in my life whom I met about a year ago at one of my comedic meditations. So I've invited Oliver Guttorm to be with us today and give us some predictions. Quickly, Oliver has been an intuitive working for nearly 2 decades now, born in Copenhagen, Denmark. He is known throughout Europe, the Far East, and of course, North America. And he is both a clairvoyant and a clairsentient. I don't know what that means. I'm wondering if a clairsentient means he smells ghosts, and I'm kind of hoping ghosts fart. Also, I might be a ghost. And he uses this practice in the most positive way to help everyone he's guiding. So we have him here today, live, must be late there, from Copenhagen, Denmark. How are you, my friend?
I'm with you. I mean, that's all it takes. So I'm here with you. So, and you're an Oreo. So I'm fine. I'm good. This is a treat, I have to say.
Oh, I'm so.
This is like one of those, you know, late treats after Christmas and New Year's. You know, I get to spend time with you. You know, so.
Wow, yes, we had instant crushes on each other. It was a love story at first sight.
I just knew that when I saw you. I'm not gonna let it go.
And I had no idea at the time that you were intuitive. And then we were chatting during the first shutdown, and you said, do you mind if I tell you something? I got a hit, which I loved that. And I didn't know if we were talking about pots or what we were going at. And you had a vision of me being on Netflix. Now that hasn't come true yet, but I have to say, almost everything you've ever told me has come to fruition. So I am hella impressed.
I don't know. I connected with you. That's how it works.
So I want to ask you, because for those of us watching who don't know much about this, I mean, you know, I like to say I dabble. I'm the world's only stand-up psychic. Knock, knock, I know who's there. But Oliver, what exactly is a clairvoyant and a clairsentient?
Well, clairvoyant is when you have if you see images in your mind, and I do a lot. You know, I close my eyes and there's a whole movie going on there. And clairsentient is when you feel there's something going on around you that gives you a certain sense that something is happening. And it all ties, you know, it ties into intuition and psychic abilities, obviously. And then you have the clairaudient when you hear stuff, you know, hear voices, not because you're crazy, but and then you were making fun of before, you know, like if I smell whatever, that would be clairsmelliant. I'm just making that up. I'm just making that up.
Now, have you had this gift, or have you been, I mean, I maybe we all have it, it's just a muscle we need to develop, but have you had this since you were a child? When did you first realize, I've got a pretty good connection to the invisible side?
Well, it's funny, you know, because when you grow up as a child, you know, you always get scared when something like that happens. I mean, you just do. and then you put it on the background. It's not something you come running to your parents and say, oh, by the way, and there's always been something around me that I couldn't explain. But it was in my late teens that I decided that, like there is something and I need to work on that. And I ended up working with a spiritual teacher in Denmark for 2 years. And she got me on this path completely. And I pulled out the tarot cards and I started reading them myself. And I was given my first deck, actually, yeah, it's the Crowley deck, which I've been working with for many years here, by a friend of mine here in Copenhagen when she saw I started doing it. And so I taught myself to read the tarot, and they're a fun tool. But combine that with whatever you feel intuitively, and I really believe, and this is my honest belief, that we're all intuitive.
Right.
I'm not sitting here doing something that's like out of this world. I don't care whether you are a scientist or you are a mother with 5 kids or a stand-up comedian. You have an intuition, and I just think that people don't listen to it, or we are not being taught to listen to it. And so then there are us who just dives into it and looks into it, and it could be a crazy world. I agree. I mean, whatever comes up is not always accurate, but that's where it really is like putting a puzzle together.
Well, but yet I believe that it's much more accepted now than, say, even 10 or 20 years ago. It seems that, well, for various reasons, especially in the last year or so, people are tuning into it.
They all want to know, when is this shit gonna end? You know?
Exactly. What the hell's going on? I'm freaking out.
I mean,
but I feel like it's much more accepted. It's more mainstream. These are themes that are now explored on many television shows, and
of course,
you know,
but what I do want to say, if somebody comes to you and tells you that they're 99% accurate, run the opposite direction, in the opposite direction.
Really?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So how accurate are you, Oliver?
In a ballpark, I would say, from what I hear and the feedback I'm getting, probably around 75, 80%.
Nice. I'll take 75, 80%.
I've missed it. I have missed some things, like by a mile, and I'm like, but intuition is a fluid and funny thing, and you can't pinpoint it always.
No.
I mean, sometimes you have to be so specific that in order for you to get like a real answer, like if you ask your intuition, is it going to rain tomorrow? You're probably going to get a yes, because somewhere in the world is going to rain,
Right.
and intuition is such a language that really works differently for everybody, and if you see like a rowing boat on a lake at night with the moon coming down at you, if you're the romantic type, it would be very romantic,
Right.
but it could also mean Jason coming out of the water, from Friday the 13th and slashing you in two, I mean, it depends on who you are, what upbringing you've had, and how you see the world, and also what you want to make of the world.
Of course, it's subjective, and I'm sure it depends on our frame of mind and on our context and references. One last question before we get into the juicy stuff.
The juicy stuff.
For people who don't know, what are tarot cards, and why is that a tool you like to use along with your intuition?
Well, okay, so first of all, I got to tell you this, Carla.
Yes.
So I can't make this shit up. So there are 78 cards in a deck. Okay. So they're divided into the major arcana, the minor arcana, and the royal cards. All of them, right? And you can buy so many different cards, whatever that speaks to you. So tonight I chose to bring up my good old deck, the Aleister Crowley deck, which most people will say it's the devil's cards, right? So Aleister Crowley, who was the occult leader and all that. But I mean, I'm sorry, I don't think they have that much power.
And you worked with those for a long time, right?
I had them for a long time, so yes. And then because you're not supposed to buy your own deck.
That's right. It needs to be gifted to you, right?
It needs to be gifted to you. And for some reason, I have 10 different decks, and they've all been gifted. I'm not kidding. They've all been gifted to me with a little help, like this deck. I really loved it. And so I didn't want to buy it myself. So I asked my best friend, Jamie, to buy it for me, and she did.
Good friend.
So I had this with me tonight, too, as well. And then tonight, I asked my niece, because when my nieces, they were born, they each got a deck. Well, I asked them when they grew up, which deck would you like, you know, because it has to speak to them. So they each got a deck. So tonight I'm borrowing my niece's deck.
Your
It's
beautiful
beautiful,
niece.
actually.
Okay.
Yeah, it really is beautiful. The Ten of Cups. And here we have the Ten of Cups. So I pulled a card from each deck. And remember,
Before
there's
we came
78
online together, right? Just before we started.
before we got on to talk to you.
Yes.
So so there's 78 cards in each deck. I mean, and people can call me crazy. I don't care. I pulled the Ten of Cups from each deck. And the Ten of Cups is just a really beautiful, I know, it's crazy. And it's just,
I've got shivers.
no, you can't make this shit up. I don't care. You know, you can sit and try and figure this one out scientifically or whatever you want, or maybe it's just a coincidence, but then let it be a coincidence. But for some people, when it's a coincidence, something like this makes them feel really good.
Well,
Why
there are
not
no,
that feeling?
listen, I've always believed since the good old Celestine prophecies came out in the 90s, and
I
I
know.
knew then
I
that
was reading that.
there are no coincidences. So obviously, the universe has a big message for us on Carla Collins Rocks the Elmo and the Earth, and obviously all of planet Earth who are watching or listening. So tell us for 2021, what does it mean, this Ten of Cups?
Ten of Cups means that we need to come together as a family. We can't be conquered and divided. There's so much division going on right now. If we need to rise above all of this, we need to come together. And that means accepting everyone's beliefs.
Right.
It really is. And because we got ourselves so divided. And it's so funny because I sat, it was interesting because I knew, of course, COVID's going to be that was going to be the big one. So I was sitting here doing a little meditation and prayers and research in my mind, as I say. I went into my inner laboratory and my inner study, and I looked at this, and I was looking at it, going, "Oh my God, there's so much coming up," because there was a lot of, like, throughout the different months, there was a lot of cups coming up, and the cups in the tarot deck is all about emotions and water, and it also represents the signs of Scorpio, Pisces, and Cancer, a very feeling side. So a lot of water there, but it's also family coming to, and then a Ten of Cups. I mean, I really couldn't make this up other than we need to come together as a family, if whatever that means to people. But we cannot, as we see on Facebook, people there, I've never seen people fight like that before. People unfriend people, and you just have to say one thing and you're being ostracized and called various words, and we can't afford that in 2021. It cannot happen. I would say that my image of 2021 is still going to be like a bungee cord. Like you jump. I don't know if you've ever been bungee.
I have.
And I have too.
In my 20s, that's a good 10 years ago.
I did it in my 20s too. That was like 2 years ago.
Of course.
I did it over the harbor of Copenhagen, but and I just remember the feeling was very free, right? But I don't. But you recognize, you know, the cord pulled you back up, and it's like you're getting another jump, and then you get a third jump, and then eventually it sort of dies down.
Right.
That's how I see 2021 when it comes to where are we going to go from. It's gonna jump back and forth.
As in the numbers or the fear, or what do you mean?
I'm talking about the whole thing until we get to a point where there's a standstill, where people can finally breathe.
And will that be in 2021? Will we be breathing at some point during this year?
I think around June, July. That's where I was looking at it. That's when we're going to really feel there's going to be a breath of fresh air that's going to open up. I'm sorry to say that's really far into 2021 where we are sitting right now. But in between all of that, we are going to be asked to have courage and to stand up for what we believe in, and as I said, support each other. In between all of that, we also have to know that there are certain things that are out of our control, because it just is. And but the breath is going to come. I mean, I know people want to. I know people say returning to things as they were before, and then people say no, get used to normal. I just like normal. I just want to be able to travel again. You know, I just want to get on a plane every other month that I used to. I want to come and see you in a heartbeat. You know, I want to call you up and say, "Hey, Carla, I'm here. Let's go for a drink."
I want to see you go for a drink. My fiance's kitchen.
let's go party.
Oh, but okay, so COVID, so what else do you see, prediction wise, or what's come to you? Um, it does make sense if we're talking vaccines or anything else, or even herd immunity, that around summer, that's when Broadway, they said they're going to be closed till at least the summer. Do you
Oh,
have,
really? I didn't know
do you
that.
have any other predictions or any other cards for this coming year?
Well, what came up every time, I looked at it, because it really is what's really driving the planet at the moment, right?
Of course.
And so that really was the big one that came up. I mean, we can go into those nitty-gritty ones if you have any questions around it. Is Trump really going to step down? Yeah, he is.
Yes.
Yeah, he is. Yeah,
Okay.
that is a run. Yeah, he this term for him is done. Biden will get in. But I think that you don't even have to be a psychic or intuitive to know that that's true. But I was looking at it anyway, and I was like, yeah, I don't necessarily see him actually being able to get past that one.
But will it be a peaceful transition, Oliver?
Not necessarily. Sorry. You have to understand that, when they took Scandal off the air, my favorite show from Shonda Rhimes, right? I went and I just watched the news, what happened in the White House. It was like watching Scandal.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Well, the ultimate reality show with the big reality
I
stars.
know, it was
No
awesome.
surprise there.
I don't think it's awesome what's happening right now in the world. And I do think that it's clever to take this virus serious. But I like the message I got. Let's come together as a family.
I do too, absolutely. Because really, I mean, I kept joking about that last year, even with my comedy routine, saying we got to pull it together as Team Earth, because we're so divided right now. When the aliens land, we need to have, our players
There's a
all
good
take
chance.
along. And then we can ask them to take us to their leader, because they don't want to be ours. I always joke that a little bit of anal probing and ass play is worth it for higher forms of intelligence.
You know what? It seriously beats this right now.
It does. It does. So do you have any other celebrity predictions? Or how about a prediction for this show? How about a prediction for Carla Collins rocks the Elmo?
Well, now we really have to pull out the really heavy guns, okay?
All right.
So we're going to do them all.
Because I joke that, not only were masks mandatory in the last year, but so are podcasts. Everybody seems to have one. So I need to know if we stand out or become a TV show or, global domination. You know my usual questions.
I know, and I'm going to tell you, because I'm getting them all. I'm sorry. What does this say?
Is it the 10 of Cups again?
Yes.
Oliver, are those gag decks where it's just the 10 of Cups for 78 cards?
I don't freaking know. I can't make this shit up.
Obviously, the guides or the universe or Bono, whoever it is, wants you to get that message.
So so your show will absolutely get off the ground, and it will not stay on YouTube. The patient's going to be the hardest thing to sit through.
Again, Bullwinkle. I know.
I hate saying that. I hate hearing when people say to me, "Be patient." I'm like, but it's true. No, you actually got the what is happening actually right now, which none of us can see, is that things are really happening in the back, like at the back. It's all like if when you're in a theater and there's a revolving stage, right? You play out one scenario, but while you do that, behind is setting up for the next stage, right? But you can't see what that is. And then the whole thing turns around and there's the new setup, and you get to play out the next part of what journey you're going. And that's what's happening right now. There are so many things that I don't even think you're aware of that's happening in the background.
Exciting.
You have quite a few muses around you, I can tell you that. It must be the animals. They must have like a higher connection to something above you.
I've always thought that. Again, my thing, if I just had the same effect on people. So for anyone watching or listening, because of course we all have a million questions, I wanted to bring up, I thought maybe, and this might be putting you on the spot, but I know that you work with a couple of entities that you call the gatekeepers. Can you tell us a
Yes,
little
I
bit about
do.
that?
They actually came to me during the first lockdown. I was
Okay.
meditating a lot because what else is
Good.
there to do? You know, I was meditating a lot, and these entities came to me. They're very lighthearted and wonderful beings, and they are guarding a gate, and they're just so eager to work. It's hysterical actually, because I hardly ever work with them. I don't know why, and so when I do, they're like, "Where the sorry have you been?" You know, and so the whole thing is that you ask them a question. It can be anything. They
Okay.
open the gate and they'll reveal a symbol for you. Now it's up to you to interpret that intuitively, or you can even jump on Dr. Google and you can find it there as well. But see what it means to you. And it's funny, I haven't used them for this part. Should we put them to work?
Well, I think so. I'd like to call upon the gatekeepers if we can, because again, I'm trying to make this of interest to everyone. And I want to give people advice as to like what should we be doing? How do we thrive during this time? How do we get the most out of 2021 or give back the most or stay healthy? I'm hoping that the gatekeepers will give us a general symbol for everybody listening or watching right now in this moment.
Okay.
Very demanding.
But they already know. They were, yeah, they're already there, and they're already very eager to open the gates. And I'm just trying to figure out what it is that they are. This is interesting. They're letting a lot of beautiful birds free that just fly out. So we're gonna have to figure. I mean, for me, it's freedom, right? Spread your wings and be free. But this is where we go and go Dr. Google, because this is
Of
the
course.
interesting part. This is what they do.
Well, and to free your mind, right?
Free your mind,
Yeah,
be
free up.
creative, don't hold back, speak your truth, fly free, explore new avenues. Sorry, I'm Dr. Googling it at the same time because I know there's going to be, if I
Well,
could just
maybe it's a don't walk, fly, right?
walk over and say, yeah, it's oh gosh, what is it?
Well,
It's
birds have been symbolic throughout history.
yeah, and this is where the intuition should go in, right? But I love seeing because I always get so so surprised when I then look up what is really the symbolism of these images, and it usually is just bang on, and that's why I look it up, right? And but also, it's like use the birds as a symbol of good luck as well. Keep them in your heart and know that you can spread your wings and be free and fly high and see things from a higher perspective, not just from where you're sitting at home watching the news on TV, for instance, or when you're reading a news article. See things from a higher perspective. We
Oh, I
are a big
like that.
planet. Yeah, we are a big planet of a lot of people, 8 billion people. A lot of us have different views. See them all and bring them together. I really believe there's healing in that. There's healing in being able to actually cross borders, which is kind of ironic because now we can't cross borders,
Right.
but there's a healing in being able to cross borders and understand because that's what birds they can do. I mean, seriously, they don't care that there's a lockdown going on, right?
Yeah.
They still spread their wings and go where they need to go because they have to. Thank you,
Well, and
Gatekeeper.
also, I mean, listen, if nothing else, COVID, this pandemic, it does give us all Earthlings a commonality. There's really very
It
few people
has.
on this planet who aren't affected. And by the way, can you hear the birds? You just on cue. See? Look, we're live to tape. I can't I can't do this other. I love it. Well, see, you've summoned them.
So it is.
They're divas. They like to be in my show all the time.
Well, that's okay.
And one of
But
my
it's funny they coming now.
I know they heard the word bird and that was it. It's their I do have something I wanted to ask you for again. how can we develop our own intuition? I think people are really open to this much more now. And I always tell people, look, the answers are within, particularly with the mess on the outside, right? And
Yeah.
we can't go outside, but when you give the image of the birds, I'm thinking we are always free in our mind. How many countless stories of people who have been in concentration camps or were able to withstand prison or horrible circumstances because their mind was still free. Nobody can, our minds cannot be captive unless we let them. So how do we, like if I want to be an intern, a psychic, and I do.
You already are.
Well, yeah. So
who is it
what do
that
we
you channel?
do?
Who is it that you channel again? I love him.
Oh, I know Fernando. That's right. I keep
Fernando.
channeling Fernando.
I
I'll
love
have to
him.
do that on the show. my inappropriate infinite energy source, who's not aware of the Me Too movement, because that's who I would channel. But for people, is what's the best way for us to flex our sixth sense? And that's a difficult thing to say. Muscle.
Well, it's like anything in this life. You have to want it, right? And it's called a sixth sense for a reason. I mean, it's not that you don't have it; you do have it, but you need to develop it. And for some people, it just comes more naturally. But I mean, I would say just play with it on a day-to-day basis. I mean, when the mail comes, well, we don't hardly ever get any snail mail today. but if you do, before you open the mailbox, just in your mind, allow yourself to see how many pieces of mail would be there. Open the box. You can see, this is the things you can play with, or if you're standing in front of 3 elevators, and you push the button and you're just wondering which one's going to come first. You can go, oh, okay, I'm going to go with that one over there to the right, and see if you're right.
Well, if families or if you're home with your bubble, I know that
if you're home with your
picture and you can be in another room and guess it.
You can do that too. So if you have a good friend, you can do so many things, right? I love to do the the answer in an envelope. You write down a question on a piece of paper, you put it in an envelope, and they don't know what it is, but you hand it to your friend or your partner, and they just sort of hold the envelope in their hands, and they get the chance to reveal what's in there. What it is that don't hold back, with these envelopes. Whatever comes to you, whether you feel it or you hear it or you sense it or you see it, just reveal it. Just say it. Like, it can just be words. Let them come up. I did that exercise in a class one time when I was teaching my intuition course. And I put a picture in this envelope, and I was sitting with this woman who was in my class, and she said, I can't do this. I'm all over the map. Now, when she pulled the picture out, it was a map.
I love it.
So there are those kind of, so don't censor yourself. I think that I would say that when it comes to intuition, don't censor yourself.
Well, we're as you say, I think we're all innately intuitive, and it's something that I think is very strong during a lot of our childhoods. Like I had 72 imaginary friends, no word of a lie, which a lot of people think we're spirits or ghosts. And I remember knowing when the phone was going to ring, and then society kind of squashes that, right? We're not, for a long time, we haven't been really encouraged. So what about just rely on your own gut, right? Because we always ask 100 people their opinions, but sometimes your first instinct
is usually the right one. Yeah. But our mind, like the older we get, our minds, they take over, right? And you can't think your way through this. There's no way you can't think your way through this. It's not how it works. It's not a thinking thing. It really is a sense.
The other thing I wanted to say is I think a lot of people, myself included, like since my mom passed or what have you, is I'm always looking for this direct message, like that I will get, a text from a ghost. We always want it to be a direct, like I always joke, I'll know my mom's there if a glass of wine pours itself, or when we're asking for answers from the universe, we kind of hope that it's just going to be delivered to us, on our screensaver in English. And just like with the gatekeepers, I think you're the one who taught me a long time ago, is that you have to go with feelings or with images or with, the other side doesn't communicate like we do. They're not speaking French.
They can,
I'm sure, but you said, electricity is one of the things you could look for, like the light flickering, or they, because its energy never dies, but we're not necessarily communicating in the same language.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah. No, no. Well, I mean, also, I mean, can you imagine if they really could materialize themselves? And I'm sure some of them can, but some kids see their grandparents suddenly, right? But can you imagine if we walk around here and suddenly you see somebody who's passed over just standing right next to you? It'll freak you out.
I'd pee my pants.
Seriously, be like, wow.
Yeah.
So I think I honestly believe that those who pass over, they're very much aware of those things. You know, I also think it's so different, right? Because it's an imprint on the tapestry of life, the life that we've lived. I mean, it'll never go away. Like we are literally leaving an imprint. Um, so they won't go away in the form that they are, and energetically they will always show up for us as the way that we remember them.
Right. They leave a
Because
tattoo.
even a tattoo, you know, is that, but you'll get the messages. It's just, this is where we need to, like, we always, we are humans. We want to control how things happen, right? But when you're dealing with this world, you can't control it. But you have to stay open to how it's going to reveal itself to you.
Okay.
And you'll see it. And you already had messages from your mom.
Well, I know that as the Kabbalists say, and many other philosophies or religions or schools of thought, that what we're seeing right now, your handsome face, little cute Oreo, that's the 1%. 99% is invisible, right? It's the little prints. We only see with the heart. We don't see what's essential with the eyes. So just for shits and giggles, this is your big closer. Let's grab one more card as a message to everybody watching. I swear to God, if it's the 10 of Cups again, and leave everybody.
You decide which deck. The one
I think let's use your niece's deck. That's what. Okay, so let's use that one.
She's so gonna love you so bad. I am just letting you know.
Your beautiful niece. Let's pick a card for one last message to us.
She is gonna love that. And she's in bed now. The Ace of Wands. Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, you've got to see this. I can't believe
we're mixing it up. Oh, that is a gorgeous card. And so what does the Ace of Wands mean?
Well, this is all about creative endeavors, right? And start of new enterprises and the start of actually moving forward for all of us. I think what it is that we need to do now, as everything is in upheaval, is to rethink outside the box and do things differently. Like what you're doing right now, how you're putting your shows together on YouTube, and you're rethinking things and getting things moving. That'll be the key to success for all of us.
Okay.
No way, we can't do things that we can't do the old ways anymore.
Right, that's the one thing. Yeah, well, and aren't we now officially in the age of Aquarius?
We are.
And what does that mean? I lied.
Well, we left the age of, so we've left the age of Pisces, right?
Uh-huh.
So now we're in the age of Aquarius. For some reason, that one moves backwards. So anyway, maybe forward. Well, backwards actually. So you see, like in another 2,000 years, we're going to enter the age of the Capricorn, right? That's good. That would be interesting.
But
anyway, so right now
because that was in the 60s, right? The dawning of the age of Aquarius. People have been talking about this one. I feel more like than other ages.
Yeah, but this one, I really believe that definitely we have entered the age of Aquarius. So Aquarians, they're free thinkers. They think forward. They think ahead. I mean, if an Aquarian encounters a problem, they will already have the solution, and they will also have the solution to the problem that comes after that solution to the next. They are so far seeing and very rationally. I mean, they think very logically, and which is sometimes I couldn't have dated an Aquarian. No, it's so logic. It's so far ahead. It's they're wonderful people. Don't get me wrong, but dating them, Capricorn, Aquarian, it's not good. You and I would be fantastic together.
Obviously.
I know, right?
With better chemistry than Rizzoli and Isles. Well, I have to say, to quote a Netflix show that we've been watching, Imposters, always forward, never backwards. See, we're getting the same, and also watch for messages to repeat themselves, right? Because I've always heard the universe starts with a whisper and then it ends with like a mother's scream, like, what the hell's wrong with you?
I know, seriously, it's that whole joke about the guy who's lost that there was a flood and he's on the rooftop and he asked God for help, and there's a helicopter and there's a boat and there's everything. No, I'm asking God. And finally he dies and he ends up with God, and I said, why didn't you help me? I said, a helicopter.
Exactly.
Like, what do you want me to do? I even sent you scuba diving gear and you didn't listen to me. I yeah, that is listen to your intuition, and listen to the messages that keep repeating. I mean, they don't like here, for instance, tonight, 10 of Cups came up like 4 times.
Right.
I'm sorry, that's a message that I should listen, so I do. And one thing that I love to do, which sort of changes everything around, if you have a daily routine when you go to work or if you go for a walk or something like that, shift it up, like do something different, go to work a different route, or go on that walk.
Uses another side of your brain, right?
Exactly,
Yes.
It challenges you to see things differently and experience things differently. And then also start practicing your hearing and your seeing, so when you're out walking or if you're sitting, just tune in. What are you hearing right now? How far is that sound and what is that exactly that's happening? Or if you're out walking, try and see more than just looking down at your phone. Look up, see what's around you.
Oh, great words of advice. Oliver, where can people find you if they would like a private one-on-one lap dance intuitive?
Lap dance. Well, my email is oliver@wellnessbeyond.com. My website is, I'm pretty tricky to get hold of, actually. So, but it's Oliver, it's the mystery, right? So oliver@wellnessbeyond.com. That's my email. And I also read for a site called 12listen.com. I read over there too. So there you can find me as well. But there's many ways to find me. And you can also find me over at Instagram. Guttorm.
Perfect. Or they can just hit me up
they can hit you up.
I'll be the psychic pimp. I don't know.
And you get a percentage.
Yeah, I'm a vessel. I'll connect them to you.
You just got yourself a new job.
Thank you so much for talking.
No, thank you.
Today.
This was beautiful. Thank you for having me on.
You're beautiful. Thanks, Oliver. Mwah. What? Did I just change a kitten into a chihuahua? I'll tell you, that Oliver guy was really magical. Well, this was great. Our first show of 2021. I want to thank Kim Mitchell. That was extraordinary. Of course, I've loved Kim for a long time, and it's always so great to talk to him. It's wild that we've interviewed each other throughout the years, and I've loved his stuff since I was a kid, literally. And Oliver, thank you so much. Checking in from Denmark, and I think you really had some great words of wisdom for us. I like the cards. Again, if you're going to get the same card 4 times, I guess we should get our acts together and come together as Homo sapiens. I feel like someone right now just went, she said Homo sapien. Stop it. So I think both Kim and Oliver had such great advice that I don't have much to add on, except for, instead of one of my French literary quotes, so I can use my beautiful accent, I'm going to leave with obviously quotes from a musician. One from Kim Mitchell himself. I've always loved that song. It's on my iPhone now. Happiness is beginning to rise. I think that is a great quote. One of the great quotes to end on, because that's our choice, and we've got to find the happiness where we can right now. And cue the birds, who of course we're interrupting when Oliver saw the bird image. And and I'll go with one my gay fiance gave me. You gotta have faith. It's also George Michael. So keep the faith, let your happiness rise. That sounds like I'm talking about a heart-on, but you know what I mean. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe or leave us a comment, or you know what to do. Have a great one. We'll see you next time. It's rising. You love it.